What's up, friends? Today on BAAM Ranch, let's talk about some things you need to include on your prepper homestead journey that are under 500 bucks, that are some of the best investments you could make. I could include a whole bunch of stuff on here, but there comes a point in time where you just got to wrap it up and get the video over, because this would be a 2-hour long video. So hold tight, let's get started. And maybe at the end, I'll throw in a couple honorable mentions that don't really deserve their own category, but are just as important. Y'all stick around. Okay, so I'm not really doing this in any particular order. But with that being said, I think a generator is probably one of the more important items on that list. And you can pick these up, the budget models, for, $300 or so. And as you'll see, a lot of the stuff on this list, it's going to be significantly under the $500 range. But having one of these is really a game changer for just keeping yourself self-reliant. This is one of the inverter style generators. They do run quite a bit more efficiently. They do use a lot less fuel, and they are a lot quieter. They're about as loud as one of the window unit air conditioners, but you can get one of the conventional style generators. Like I said, for $300 or $400, it's going to actually put out more wattage than a comparable priced inverter style. Although these are better to run electronics and things like that. They seem expensive, but the very first time your power goes out, and you realize you don't have to throw away every bit of the groceries that were in your freezer, this thing has already paid for itself. It gives you the ability, like out here, I can have power at the back of the property if I need it for some reason. I can take this with me somewhere. And if you'll notice, I loaded this up in the bed of the pickup by myself. And I think that's where you need to start. No, it's not going to run your whole house, but it'll run the things you need to. And I think it's important, if you're going to start with one, to get one that's the biggest size that you can reasonably load up in the bed of the truck by yourself. Then worry about getting another generator. We've got a few of these. This is the one we use the most often. We've got some of the little Honda suitcase style ones. But this is what we use the most often. So yeah, like I said, not in any particular order, but I think a generator is probably pretty damn high on that list. Another thing is a chainsaw. Now this is a small saw. I've got two saws, and they're both pretty small because, we don't have trees around here. If I lived in a place that had lots of woods, I definitely have a bigger saw than this. Both of mine are Echoes, and I got them used at a garage sale. They do everything I need. This one right here needs a chain, needs some tender love and care and some maintenance, and maybe we could do a video about that. But what we primarily use this for is, if we get a chance to cut up a tree for somebody to get some firewood, cutting stuff down to length so it'll go ahead and fit in the fireplace. Doing some demolition work, chainsaw is awesome for that. There's just more uses for a chainsaw than, your traditional go and cut down trees. I like this top handle saw. This is intended like for climbing, so it's more compact, but it fits just about everywhere. And I wind up using this saw just because it's so light, small, and handy more than anything. And if I was going to suggest a place to start out, I would say something like this, although given a choice, I would probably go with a steel. I hope to upgrade to a steel, pretty soon, but this one works just fine, and I'm not going to upgrade till one of the two of these dies. Whenever one of them dies, I'll go ahead and get a steel, and I've got the other one to run as a spare, kind of the way I do things now. I guess the next item we need to talk about is some decently good quality hand tools. I'm not going to drag everything out for you. I've done videos about that stuff in the past. If y'all want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to do that video. I just don't think it's necessary for this discussion. But we need mechanics tools, electrician, like building, like framing tools, and plumbing tools. So home tools and mechanics tools, not just like for working on cars, but we also want to be able to fix equipment and stuff like that. What that consists of is pretty simple. Sockets and wrenches, metric and standard. Let's go from 6mm to 24, and then from 1/4 inch to 1 inch. With a couple of assorted extensions, 1/4 inch and 3/8 drive, ratchets and adapters. Let all that stuff work back and forth with itself, and a long breaker bar. Your wrenches be the same sizes, metric and standard. You don't have to buy Snap-on. Any of the good house brands, from Lowe's or Home Depot, those are good tools. And as long as you buy the better ones, not necessarily the Icon, but the better ones at Harbor Freight, those actually hold up pretty well also. You're probably going to need some Torx sockets or some Allen sockets, depending on what kind of stuff you have around the house. And some pliers, needle nose pliers, some side dikes, side cutters, whatever you want to call them. A couple pairs of channel locks, and lineman pliers are really nice to have. Hammers, just get you a few hammers. Don't spend a bunch of money on hammers. I buy the cheap hammers from Harbor Freight, and they work just fine. You need a small ball peen, a larger ball peen, and then like a 3 or 4 pound hand sledge, and then a big, like 8 and up pound, double jack sledgehammer. That really accomplishes just about everything you need as far as the hand tools. Anything in addition to that, you buy it whenever you need it. But that right there will accomplish most of what you need. The sockets, you do want deep sockets as well. One of the blow mold kits from Lowe's or Home Depot or Craftsman or whatever is just fine. Tecton on Amazon makes really good tools as well. Carpenter's tools, tape measures and hammers, chisels, you can search it out, pick what you need for that. Plumbing, a pipe snake is really nice to have, even if it's not like, one to clear out your sewer line, one of the big ones. If it's just one of the little, 3/8 diameter ones to, send down your toilet drain or something, those are actually incredibly useful. A couple pipe wrenches, pipe cutters, just kind of get what you need as you need it with that. Electrician's tools. It's really nice to have a multimeter. I've got cheap ones and I've got expensive ones from Fluke. And for my purposes, they work, both of them work just fine. The cheap and the expensive ones. I'm needing to see, does it have power or does it not? Does it have resistance? Is it within the range of the stuff that I'm working on? I'm not doing like sensitive electronics. So the more inexpensive ones work just fine, but you do need to add some type of clamp meter so you can measure amperage. That does come in handy, especially if you've got problems with anything on 3-phase. That's pretty simple, but go set yourself a $500 budget and get a good quality, well-rounded set of hand tools. If you want to see a video on that, holler at me, and that's something that we can do. Next up, I'm probably going to say you really need a good bench vise. And if you don't have one, you don't realize how bad you needed one. Get the biggest, heaviest vise that you can either afford or that you have room for. These vices just get used all the time. If you've only got one, I recommend putting it on some sort of a mobile stand. Just makes it a whole lot more handy. I've got a bunch of them. I've got this one, I've got a small one on my welding table, I've got one on my workbench, I've got some little screw-on clamp vices, and all of them get used. It's crazy just how much use a bench vise is. You don't have any idea how much you need one until you get one, or more importantly, whenever you don't have one after you've been used to using one when you needed it. The next thing I'm going to say is some type of steel welding table. Harbor Freight sells one that's great. Northern Tool sells one that's great. This one came from VEVOR. It's like under $150. This is one of the best investments I have made, like times 1,000, like infinity. I love this thing. And I was debating saying, get a big, heavy fabrication table, but the ability to move this thing around wherever I need it to go is absolutely valuable. I can by myself pick this up and load it in the truck and take it somewhere if I need to. I can move it around. It fits in small spots. I don't have a huge shop, so I need something small. And even if I did have a huge, giant, 1,000-pound fabrication table, I would still have one of these just because it's so valuable to be able to move it around wherever you needed. You can see right there, I mounted a small bench vise to it. I'll put a link to some of this stuff from Amazon. If you buy every single thing I post, I might get a cup of coffee out of it. It's not like I'm getting rich, but it does throw a little bit of support my way if you want. Okay, another thing is these little budget model welders. I've got a review on this one from Best Arc. I've got a review coming out probably in a couple days on this one. This is a whole lot heavier duty of a welder. But these two machines right here are really, really nice. They actually both weld really good. A welder is one of those things that you don't understand exactly how much utility is in one of these until you have one. Being able to, you know, whip up something that you need. Being able to modify a tool. That's still got the plastic on it right there. Being able to modify a tool to make it suit your needs. Fixing the lawnmower deck. I've made fence brackets with these. That vise that I showed you a minute ago was, I built that stand with this welder right here actually. Now I do recommend you get one that will run MIG and stick, you know, wire feed and stick, just because it gives you a little bit more versatility, and they've got the prices on these things down low enough that it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to be able to do that. The second thing I would recommend, especially if you've just got one, is to get one that will run off of 110 or 220. So it's dual voltage. And that thing's tight. So it's dual voltage. This will run off of 110 or 220. I could take this thing out in the backyard with the generator and run it just fine. The 220 ones run amazingly better. This one runs amazingly better on 220. But I can't always reach where I need to go, you know, so I'm kind of stuck in the garage. Whereas I can run an extension cord or a generator and run one of these dual voltage ones pretty easy. And burning 332nd rods, you know, 7018, 6010, 6011, 6013 on 110 volts, it'll burn that just fine. And flux core wire burns just fine in either. So yeah, I really do recommend that. And while you're at it, I installed a 220 outlet in my shop. It took like less than an hour. It cost me under 50 bucks. It's a worthwhile upgrade. While we're on the fabrication thing, I've got so many cords and stuff around here, this is crazy. But both of these are plasma cutters. These were sent to me for review. I've got reviews on my channel of both of these, as well as a Best Arc machine, but I'm out of room here. But man, one of these 110 volt plasma cutters, game changer. How much do you spend on cutoff wheels for your grinder? Let alone the things coming apart on you and everything. These are laser beams for, you know, anything, you know, 1/4 inch and under. You plug it into 220, 1/2 inch plate, nothing. It'll sever 3/4 inch plate, both of these wheel. And I don't know, these things are cheap enough. I probably wouldn't make it a priority, but if you could pick one of these up, it'd be a good idea, and I would recommend it. You do have to have an air compressor, so you have to, you know, account for that, but they'll run for short distances off of a pretty small air compressor. Next, for our kind of bonus items, these two items right here. Can you see that? Good old Comealong. I talked about this in other videos, but this and a high lift jack. I just can't think of a whole bunch of things that you might need to be put in a different spot where one of these can't handle. These are rated to like 7,000 pounds. Don't tattle on me, but I have lifted incredibly more than 7,000 pounds with this, and it handled it no problem. These are rated to 4,000 pounds. Same thing. I have moved, well, I've moved a 6,000 pound truck with all 4 wheels locked up, skidded it across the ground, and had tons of pulling power left in them. These right here do more than just lift stuff. They pull posts, and I'm talking big, huge posts that have, you know, 250 pounds of concrete hanging on the end of them. This will get them out. Tree roots, uproot. I have pulled trees, actual trees, wrapped a chain around the base of it and jacked a tree. You know, I'm talking, you know, 4 or 6 inches, and lifted a tree out of the ground with this very high lift jack. They're terrible for jacking up a vehicle, but they will lift almost anything. You can use them to stretch fence. You can use them as a clamp. Take the end of it up there. Can you see that? Is it in frame? Yeah. You take this end up here, turn it around, and it makes a clamp. Use these as a winch to pull your truck out of the mud. There are just 1,000 different things that you can use the combination of these 2 tools for. And like I said, I have never found something that I needed moved that I couldn't do with these 2 tools. This shed right here, it's heavy. Whenever we moved, I left this thing loaded. I secured everything on the shelves. It had a whole bunch of scrap metal in it, had a ton of stuff in it. It was full. I loaded this thing on the trailer by myself with 0 help from anybody, with a Comealong and a high lift jack. And that's also what I used to unload it. It's also what I'm going to use to move this thing, because my wife has decided she needs it in a different place. What the wife wants, the wife gets. So yeah, you cannot understate the versatility of those 2 tools. You know, I think the most important thing is probably something that I should have included. And y'all help me out with that. Down in the comments section, that is the best learning place that I have ever seen in my entire life. The amount of knowledge in YouTube content, YouTube comments, is much better than my ability to speak, that's for sure. But yeah, leave some wisdom below. Let me know what I missed. You know, maybe I should have included a rifle. If you shop hard enough, like from Palmetto State Armory, you can pick up an AR-15 for 500 bucks. Maybe I should have included that. Maybe there's something that should have taken a little bit more precedence over these. You know, a used riding lawnmower. Use that thing as a small tractor. You can pick those up for 500 bucks. You know, there's just 1,000 different things that you could have included in here. But like I said, eventually you just got to go ahead and, you know, stop the video somewhere. So anyway, until next time, you guys do me a favor, click on some of the links in the comments below, hit subscribe. I'll post a video up here in one of these corners, I don't remember which one, of something that YouTube thinks you might like that's another video of mine. And I really, really do appreciate y'all's time. Until next time, hey, you guys be safe.